All right. Welcome in to the Questionable Podcast. You got Scotty Questions here with Meko. What's good, man?
What's going on, man?
Dude, it's back in town, down in
Uh,
Florida for a couple days.
Yeah, I wasn't nowhere near as nice as Florida, but same here. Just got back in town. Or just got back home yesterday, so spent a little time away, and you know, um, yeah, had to do some mentoring and youth ministry stuff. So that was kind of cool. But no, how was Florida?
Florida was great. Met James Harden last night. Saw Dino Cicerelli on the flight back today. So, it's a couple name drops there. But no, it was a great trip. So, also won the tournament. Literacy for Kids, golf outing. You are
Nice.
speaking to the champion. Yes, we did it. Brought the trophy home. So it was exciting. I shot like the best round of golf I've ever played on Saturday. It was fun. So
Nice. It's nice to know like all the hard work you're putting in on the golf course isn't just being wasted away. Like you're just not just pissing away dollars going to the golf course when you go.
that's fair. It's not cheap. So, but anyway, thank you all for tuning in today. Please like, follow, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube, Twitch, and wherever you listen to podcasts. So, since I've been traveling and focused on my golf game, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to lean on you today. I would love for you, Meko, to take us through the combine. And, there's a lot. So many texts I miss. Lots of news. Lots happening around the league right now. Derek Carr, Gino, etc. We have free agency coming up, but we just had the combine. Noble was the sponsor, the apparel sponsor. That was cool. They did a great job. I
Yeah.
thought the gear was cool. And yeah, can you take us through a couple big takeaways? Talk to me,
I
Miko.
mean,
Like,
so yeah, like no, like combine week is like again, I love this time of year. I love the draft. I love combine. So I'm one of those people that gets really excited about just being able to see some of these guys because again, like it's true for most football fans, like we don't get to see everybody. And it's not even so much like seeing these guys do these workouts as much as it is hearing these experts talk about these players because again, we're novices. We're not NFL scouts, so we don't even know necessarily what to look for when someone is running a 40 or when they're running a certain drill. So having guys, I believe Rich Eisen and Daniel Jeremiah do a really good job over there at NFL Network. Just of again giving people an inside look. They brought in coaches and they have really good interviews with coaches and players to kind of give some insight just in like some of the drills that are being ran. So like I always kind of appreciate the combine even just from that aspect. But yeah, like you said, there was a lot of big news. I think if we're going to try to go through this in order, um, I think the biggest news that came out almost like immediately day one of Combine Week was the Jalen Carter news. Um,
right.
just the fact that he's now facing two misdemeanor charges for his involvement in that tragedy that happened that resulted in him losing a teammate as well as another, I believe, staff member of the team also losing their life and another person being injured. So there's that whole thing which kind of kicked things off, which really did like set a really weird tone to Combine Week because Jalen Carter arguably is probably the number one prospect in the draft. Like regardless of position, like probably the most talented player, defensive tackle out of Georgia, going into the draft. And I mean, we've seen it time and time again. This type of news, while again a tragedy, and um, if Jalen Carter has any type of like negative involvement in this that resulted in this thing happening, um, obviously like we are hoping that the truth comes out and the necessary steps are taken to do that, and that whatever is right comes out of that. But we've seen stuff like this immediately tank prospects
Right.
draft stock immediately.
Right.
And that's immediately like kind of the tone that was set on Combine Week is, again, players are checking in. The next day they're supposed to be doing like weigh-ins and all this other type of media availability. And some interviews, and immediately news drops, Jalen Carter has to go back to Georgia to turn himself in. So again, it's
Meko,
bad news all the way around.
When did that happen? When was the accident?
So the accident, I believe, was late January. I believe it was right after after Georgia won the national championship. I don't have the charges in front of me. I do know one of the charges was racing. And I believe the other one might be like fleeing the scene of an accident.
Yeah, no, he left. He definitely left. I know that. I was just wondering when that happened. So that was January. Okay.
Yeah.
But we never heard about this though, right?
Well, we did, like, again, when the accident originally happened, we heard about it. The thing that we didn't get a lot of information on was Jalen Carter's involvement. And that was the breaking news of it all, was that, like, hey, now, like, the way it was originally reported was that this was probably a one car accident. And now it started to, like, well, maybe this is due to, again, the people involved in the accident, as well as Jalen Carter, participate, like, engaging in racing and just being reckless driving and things of that nature. And this is how this tragedy kind of happens. Which, again, like, it's when that became like the story in the news, to kind of personalize this a little bit, like, I immediately had flashbacks to, like, how me and my friends used to just be stupid when we got our licenses.
Right.
And do stuff like this all the time. Right. Obviously, we weren't old enough to drink in high school and things like that, but we would race, like, all the time. Right. Trying to push our cars to the limit, speeding on the highway, thinking that we could be, like, we were real life Fast and Furious drivers. Like, it's dumb. Like, looking back on it, not only were we endangering ourselves, but we were endangering the other people on the road. And it's, for me, like, that's how I kind of, like, sum this up, is that, like, I know there are going to be, like, huge takes from, like, what this is, and, like, and people are going to make assumptions on Jalen Carter's character. The biggest one that I can make at this moment is just, like, this is dumb and immature, right? Like, it's at the root of it, that's what it is to me. And this is the result of when, being dumb and immature. And I guess you probably, like, throw in, like, recklessness and alcohol, and this is the result. This is the cocktail that you kind of make for yourself.
So my question is here. I mean, we're going to get into it. We might as well continue to talk about Jalen, right? So obviously his draft capital will slip. Right. So do we think he can slip to 6, and should the Lions be interested in this young man?
Yeah, I think that is the juggling act at this point for me as a fan. Because I think when you look at the Lions, like, I think if this was any other team, let's say this, if this was any other team in the NFL, most teams in the NFL, I think we could say, like, hey, they're probably going to look at Jalen Carter's talent more so than they are this situation. And I'm not saying that's right. We're just saying, like, I mean, again, looking at it very cut and dry, and how most evaluators in the NFL seem to look at these situations, it's very cut and dry. Jalen Carter is seen as a generational talent at defensive tackle. Probably one of the best defensive tackles to come out of the draft, as far as, like, again, like, high ceiling, probably since, like, Ndamukong Suh. Right, not necessarily having Suh's production, or I mean, because, again, Suh was up for the Heisman, I think, in his final year at Nebraska.
Yeah,
but Jalen Carter has that type of, like, awe to his game, and typically you see those types of players, like, their red flags kind of get overlooked because they're just like, well, the talent is so high. With that said, I'm still not sold that Jalen Carter falls to 6. Because
you don't think so?
Honestly, no, and I'll tell you why. It has everything to do with the team that picks before the Lions at 5. If there's a team in the NFL that feels like, hey, we will take players with rough edges and figure out if we can smooth them out, outside of the Cleveland Browns, the very next team that comes to mind is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks take guys that have, like, that they have been known to take guys that have, I don't even necessarily like bad attitudes, but just like, they've had like question marks on their personalities or their character traits, and they still take those guys, and then they're, and they make the league pay for not choosing to gamble. So
they take the questionable guys.
They do. They 100% do.
Well, yeah, Marshawn Lynch, DK Metcalf,
Bruce Irvin at one point in time. I mean, they got Quandre Diggs from us, but I mean, I think you could argue that Quandre was a little. I mean, just because of like his size and things of that nature. Cam Chancellor, like the most of the Legion of Boom, during their heyday in Seattle. So yeah, like you don't really know, but I think if he makes it to 6, I think the Lions should take him. Yes, because like I said, like at the end of the day, I do not believe that Jalen Carter is a terrible person. I don't believe that he intended for this to happen, and I kind of I agree greatly with what Casey is saying here in our chat on YouTube. Regardless of intent or actions, like once you get pulled into the judicial system, it's all about innocence or guilty. And so like I don't blame Casey for like having this opinion. Like until that's resolved, he'll pass on him, and I understand that fully, and I think that's something that a lot of teams are going to weigh. But I mean, I wouldn't object to it because I don't believe like Jalen Carter is the red flag that like other players have been in the past with way more, like where they have years of character issues. This is an incident. It's an incident that needs to be vetted.
It's an accident
thoroughly. Well, right. Yeah, but it still needs to be vetted thoroughly, right? Like to what extent, again, to clearly understand Jalen Carter's involvement in it, how much alcohol was involved, how often has he had trouble, controlling his alcohol consumption, things like of that nature. And then that should help you be able to make a more educated guess on whether or not he fits your football team.
Okay. So you're passing on him?
No, I wouldn't. I would not pass.
You would take him?
I would take him.
Ooh.
I would take him, and outside of new information coming out as of right now, I would take him
based on what we know today.
Based on what we know,
okay.
I would take him today. Right. Yes.
All right. Okay, that's fair. I mean, he's a great player, right? I mean, he would help. He's a game wrecker, right? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. That's what
and I like I said, part of it is, again, it's personal, like, me recalling my time of being just dumb and immature. Like it's literally like the difference between it's luck, right? Because I drove like this. I raced my friends all the time. On the night that I went to prom, right? Like we were like, hey, let's push it to the limit, going like 120 in a 40.
What?
Like it's dumb stuff that you do because you think you're invulnerable until something happens. And again, I'm not saying like that to excuse him, but I'm just saying like that's where I relate. I relate into like this immature thinking of like you're just invulnerable and you just make really dumb decisions.
Okay. Meko, Fast and Furious, episode 1.
Dude, had to change my driver ways once I met my wife though. Like, I had precious cargo with me at all times.
That's what's up. Okay, all right. So moving on, what's next? What other big takeaways did you have from the combine? I know that Richardson was a big topic. Do you want to talk about quarterbacks real quick? What do you?
Yeah, I mean, because quarterbacks is. I mean, it's been a heavily debated thing.
I'm curious because right now, right, like based on what Dan Campbell and Holmes said, they're in the market. It sounds right. It sounds like we're in the market for a quarterback. So what does that look like for us at 6? Like, I mean, this is, again, it's been a topic. And what does it mean to you? I mean, he broke records, right?
Yeah.
Now,
I mean,
I don't know that we just need an athlete at quarterback, right? You also need somebody that can make throws. But
yes,
he is right. He broke. What records did he break? Can you take us through?
I believe it was the vertical. If not the vertical, I think it might have been the broad jump. But he put together a very, like, again, just as far as like the athletic testing, dude was off the charts, right? At almost 6'5", 240. I mean, human beings are not supposed to run as fast as he ran. They're not supposed to jump as high as he jumped. I believe he had like a 40-inch vertical. I think he jumped around like 10.9 or something like that in the broad jump. 4.40 if I'm correct. I believe it was a 4.4. So like 4.44, like he's a specimen as far as athletically gifted. And when you see a quarterback that, again, in a league and in a time in the NFL where you don't see quarterbacks put together quite like him, he turns a lot of heads. And then on top of that, your GM and head coach come out and say, like, yeah, we're looking at this and we're looking at it fairly seriously. Now, that opens up the door, though, to the conversation of, are they looking at it seriously from a standpoint of like they're just doing their due diligence because he could potentially be in that range, or are they looking with the intent to take a quarterback at 6? Because while we talked, I think it was even last week, we talked about Anthony Richardson fairly heavily, and I'm very much in the camp of, if Anthony Richardson is available to you, you take him. I'm also not so stupid to like completely ignore every other need the Lions have, and to think that like Brad Holmes thinks exactly the same way I do. I understand that he has a job to do as far as putting together a competitive team that has to do the job of winning now and having the ability to win in the future. But I mean, you hit it on the head. They both came out in unison and basically were like, yeah, we are in the market for a quarterback. And Brad Holmes, I think, gave the best explanation of why, which, I mean, again, if you're in the camp of like the Lions shouldn't draft a quarterback high, this probably didn't make you feel great at first. But I think once he explained himself, I think everybody had to sit back collectively and be like, this makes sense.
Sure.
The Lions went into training camp, or came out of training camp, with no backup quarterback. Like, and they were fortunate enough to find, Nate Sudfeld in free agency. And again, even more fortunate that they never needed to use their backup quarterback. And that's something that Brad Holmes took a great deal of accountability for, and kind of basically was just like, yo, I have to do better at this. I have to be more mindful of this so that we don't find ourselves in the situation. And again, that can be taken so many different ways. That could mean that, hey, they're going to draft a quarterback at 6. If you're in that camp, it could also just mean like, no, they're probably just going to draft one. Where they draft one is going to probably be in the later rounds. They'll probably try to find somebody in the 6th round, as well as probably sign a veteran. That's literally how far this pendulum is swinging when it comes to this topic of quarterback.
So, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's, I don't think that Richardson's, what's interesting to me is, yes, he is a specimen. He is a talented athlete.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that, I mean, the biggest thing for me is like the deep ball to JMO, right? We need that. Okay, but who do you think, in your opinion, is the best quarterback that was in the combine?
CJ Stroud.
Okay,
I think if we're talking
so
about
he showed up,
just grading, grading as like pure quarterbacks, I think CJ Stroud is far and away, probably, without being able to see Bryce Young, CJ Stroud stood out head and shoulders above everybody else from a quarterback standpoint.
Okay. So who would be number 2 then after CJ, in your opinion? Again, for those that are listening, I wasn't able to watch it. I was at a tournament. So, but this is Meko, the combine corner with Meko. So who's number 2 after CJ? That's my question to you, based on what you saw. Again, we're talking about what you saw, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Bryce Young is still arguably, he's either 1 or 2, depending on, like, again, how much you want to weigh the combine performance and how much you want to weigh size and measurables, because Bryce Young is smaller, right? He's the same, almost like a mirror copy of Kyler Murray, as far as height and weight is concerned.
Okay.
So again, depending on how you view size, if Kyler Murray was big enough, quote unquote, to be drafted first overall in his draft, you might be able to justify that Bryce Young is big enough to be the first quarterback taken in this draft. I would caution people with that thought process only because, like, seriously, go back and look at that draft class. It was Kyler Murray, and then it was like this huge gap between everybody else. I do feel like there's more competition in the top 3 to 4 quarterbacks when you look at Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson. I think there's more argument to be made as far as like which quarterback you prefer. Whereas in Kyler's situation, he was clearly the more talented quarterback. The only knock on him was his size, and you were willing to take that gamble simply off the athletic upside and what he had done in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
In this situation, I think it could be very similar because you can't knock the success that Bryce Young has had.
Kyler's got wheels though, man.
I mean, but so does Bryce Young. He does not have Kyler Murray's elusiveness. He does not have like that type of speed and elusiveness, but he's mobile for his size. He doesn't need to just sit in the pocket nearly as much as maybe Tua does. For example, like another quarterback that's a little bit on the smaller side, even though Tua's bigger than Bryce Young. He doesn't need to just operate from the pocket. He operates very well from the pocket, but Bryce Young can get out there and he can move a little. So for me, to go back to your question, as far as like how would I rank these quarterbacks?
Yeah.
As of right now, coming out of the combine, I would have CJ Stroud as my number 1.
Okay.
And I am giving CJ Stroud a little bit of a boost because he not only, it was already very close for me between him and Bryce Young, but then CJ went out there and put it on display, and he looked, I mean, phenomenal. Like on cue with his throws, great footwork, great accuracy, was able to hit the deep ball, was able to hit the short stuff. Like, and so it's not a knock on Bryce for not being able to perform or not choosing to perform. It's literally just giving CJ a bump because he went out there and he let it hang out. He let it all hang out against the likes of an Anthony Richardson and a Will Levis, who both were like, no, we're going to go out here and throw.
Right. So for the Lions to get a game wrecker and get this talent, do we have to move up?
CJ?
The Lions, do we have to move up to get one of these top talents? Not a quarterback, but like
right.
Like there's like 4 or 5 guys. Like we're 6, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Like if we were like 5, that would work. I feel like we're one pick behind where we really want to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like 4 would be amazing, but do we move? I don't know that.
I don't think we do. No, I think Brad Holmes, and one thing that, like, again, there are certain things that I think we're still learning about Brad Holmes, this being his 3rd draft. But if there is one thing that I believe Brad on very much is that this team is not one player away.
That's fair.
And so I don't believe that
point.
there is this need to make like a home run swing to go up and go get a player, and give up future assets, right? Like,
sure.
I think that would make most Lions fans happy, right? Like, you would rather them trade back before you would want them to trade up. You would rather have more bites at the apple before you would like to have fewer. And that's even in spite of a Will Anderson or Jalen Carter, who would be great additions defensively. I think most Lions fans would be like, "Now we could probably, as a unit, as a collective of draft picks, you could probably find some talent." When looking specifically at the quarterback position, it depends, right? We talked about this last week, and I was very passionate about it, and I stand on it, like, even more so now after seeing Anthony Richardson perform and seeing CJ Stroud perform. I strongly believe if for some ridiculous reason one of those 2 quarterbacks falls to 6, you should take them. Absolutely, you should take them. And I think with the news that we just got today in the NFL, with Derek Carr signing his deal, with seeing what Geno Smith signed for his deal.
Yeah, congrats to both those guys. Good for you.
Yeah, they deserved it. Geno specifically, like, really deserved it after the year he had. We don't quite know what Daniel Jones is going to sign, but like, it sounds like it's going to be something ignorant. Like, it sounds like it's going to be something stupid.
Yes. It's kind of annoying, and I'm glad I'm not a Giants fan.
Right, because I don't know how Giants fans feel at this moment with that pending, but
I can tell you, Valenti hates it.
I'm sure he does, and he has every right to.
He's pissed.
Dan Orlovsky said it perfectly. if the Giants don't pay Daniel Jones $40 million, who do they think in the NFL is? And I think that's a perfect question to ask. Like, just because you don't do it, like no one else is doing that either.
Right.
I would stall him out like the Lions kind of did with Kenny Golladay, but that's neither here nor there. But like
Golladay.
So, but like I feel like if the likes of Stroud or Richardson were just so happened to fall to the Lions at 6, I think you do what the Giants did back when they took Daniel Jones and they had the 6th pick and the 17th pick, as well as I think they had like the 28th or something like that. They had 3 picks in the first round.
Yeah.
But they took their quarterback at 6. And I believe Eli was still playing. And I think Eli was playing like at an okay level. Like he hadn't quite yet fallen off. But like Eli was never like the top of the tier, like elite quarterback. He was good enough to get you to a playoff run. If everything went right, you knew Eli Manning could get you to a playoff berth. I feel like the Lions are in a similar situation where it's like, hey, if things go great, Jared Goff can probably get you to a playoff berth. If things go like incredibly amazing, he might get you to a Super Bowl. But that doesn't mean that you can't take a quarterback at 6 right now.
That's fair. So on this topic, who hurt their stock by not participating?
So I have 2 players that kind of came to mind. Again, watching it, and I'm probably a little biased with this, but the first name that came to mind was Devin Witherspoon.
Okay.
And this is by going in order of like how the draft kind of played out. The DBs were on the second day on the field, and you got to see the top guys. You got to see Christian Gonzalez. You got to see Joey Porter Jr. You got to see both defensive backs out of Maryland. Clark Phillips. Like there were a lot of great DBs putting up great numbers, both physically and then. Again, the same way I was talking about how CJ Stroud just kind of did everything effortlessly and just was like on point with everything. That's what Christian Gonzalez was doing. And for me personally, like if we're going to debate who's the number 1 corner in this draft class, it's really between Christian Gonzalez and probably Devin Witherspoon. And so when you're sitting there and you're watching Christian Gonzalez run a fast 40, put up amazing numbers in the vert, have a great broad jump, and then they're doing the positional drill stuff, and he's just smooth as can be, right? Never looking rattled, never overthinking anything he's doing. You're just like, I wonder what Devin Witherspoon would look like next to this, And so Devin Witherspoon was the first person that came to mind. Now, it's not his fault. He had a hamstring injury, so it's not like he didn't want to perform. He had an MRI. They found something with his hamstring, and so he decided to like sit it down. And wait till his pro day. The second player to me is, again, in a very similar situation where it's not necessarily a true knock on him, but it's just because other players performed and put up great performances, is Bryce Young, right? Because your size is what your size is. But at the end of the day, Dan Campbell said it best, like what they're looking for is what you did on tape. And I think even being able to show like that competitive nature to get out there against these other guys, because all the other top guys said they were throwing. Levis threw, Stroud threw, Richardson threw. Bryce Young was the only person that didn't throw. And I feel like in some people's mind, like that's going to be enough where if Bryce Young was originally the first quarterback to come off the board, he might now be like the second. Maybe the third if someone feels
Is he going to do a pro
risky.
Day? Is it so?
Yeah, he's absolutely going to do a pro day. Yeah. Yeah. But I think, again, it's just that competitive nature, right? To be able to see him make a throw after Stroud and Richardson has made a throw and to be able to compare them like in real time.
Yeah.
And to be like, oh, well, let's say Richardson misses that throw or he not quite as accurate, but Bryce Young comes out and he hits it with ease. And it's like, well, that's what separates the two, which again, you can do that with tape. But like I said, it's just the competitive nature, I think.
Yeah. So again, for those tuning in, I wasn't around. I wasn't able to watch the combine. So Meko was getting me up to speed of what he saw and some of his takeaways. So keep it rolling. What's next?
Yeah, man. Another thing that I paid a lot of attention to. So we talked about when we talked about last week, the one thing that I was really looking forward to was being able to see the defensive linemen and the linebackers perform.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with the defensive linemen first. Kalijah Kancey didn't do a whole lot, but he did run the 40 and he did get his measurables done. And Kalijah Kancey to me is like a first round caliber defensive tackle that the Lions may have a shot at 18. Again, he was originally projected to be like exactly 6 feet tall, which a lot of people are like, that's kind of short. He came in at 6'1". Very similar, like physical comp to Aaron Donald. Ironically, or maybe not ironically, he also played at Pitt. Pitt seems to have a thing for these shorter defensive tackles. And John made a great point that he's like, he feels like in the recruitment speech, it's probably just them lying to the recruits, being like, hey, you could be Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
But Kalijah Kancey is impressive. And I think, again, all he did was run the 40, but he ran the fastest 40 of the defensive tackles. And when you look at his tape, you look at how explosive he is, you look at how disruptive he is at the line. Obviously, I'm sure he'll do everything else at the pro day. I think the one thing that I want to see is his bench press. I want to see like how many reps he puts up, because he kind of has short arms in the same way that Aaron Donald did. But Aaron Donald put up like some ridiculous numbers in the bench press. So if Kalijah Kancey can replicate that, not saying you're getting Aaron Donald, but at least you have some, like, you know what you're working with in terms of Kalijah Kancey. Again, I cannot say this guy's name, but it's the defensive end out of USC. I am a huge fan of him. He has the size to be able to play inside or outside. He actually slimmed down some. I think USC had him originally listed at like 290. He came in at the combine at like 260. Oh, but looks good. But looks
like 30 pounds lighter. That's a lot. That's a lot
but he's like 6'5", 260. So it's like, it's not like it looks well on him. So like, but it at least lets you know that you have a range that you can work with this guy in the sense that he can add 30 pounds and probably play defensive tackle if you want him to, probably play 3 tech, or you can have him play at 260 and put him on the edge. And again, I cannot remember his name exactly. I can't pronounce his name. I know his name. I just can't pronounce it. And I'm not going to make a fool of myself.
I know who you're talking about, though. I know who you're talking about.
It's Tui. His first name is Tui.
Tui.
Like,
I know who you're talking about, though. Like, I mean, I didn't see, but I've on Twitter, Kancey was a big thing, and Tui, right? They were hot topics.
And so, but I mean, kid had like 14 and a half sacks, like 14 or 13 and a half sacks this past year. I've been saying that like if you like John Kaminsky, I think you would love this player because I think he could do everything that John Kaminsky did for the Lions, but better.
Okay.
Right. Same athleticism, still same ability to play inside, play outside, to do a lot of those like stunts that like helped free up Aiden and all of those things. And then again, like on third downs, you could probably just kick him outside and he can rush the passer. So from the defensive line standpoint, like those were 2 guys that I really, really liked. And I liked seeing them test well. They did really well in the drills. Linebackers were very, very impressive. I was very much blown away. The linebacker that I think probably like impressed me the most was Jack Campbell out of Iowa.
That's what I was going to ask. Of the linebackers, who was your favorite?
Jack Campbell by far.
Okay.
Why?
Why?
Because he was the biggest surprise. Everything that I heard about Jack Campbell and everything that I had kind of been reading and watching other people talk about Jack Campbell, he's probably like the most prototypical middle linebacker in the draft class.
Okay.
But that comes like with some like detractors, right? Like he plays middle linebacker really well, but he's probably not the greatest athlete, or at least that's what was being said. And I think he kind of went out into the draft and into the combine and kind of like checked off some of those boxes athletically where, 40 time was a little bit faster than I think people thought it would be. I think he ran like in the low 4.6s, which is really good because again, he's like 6'5", 230, probably somewhere between 230 and 250. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but that's a good time for a bigger linebacker. And then he tested well in everything else, right? So it wasn't like he just ran a good 40. Like athletically, he put together a really good athletic profile. So it's like, okay, well, if you know the mental part of the game is there, and you know that the athletic limitations are not nearly as severe as you thought they would be, Jack Campbell could be a really good linebacker for this defense that could potentially be looking to move on from Alex Anzalone, or at least give someone.
Well, we've talked about this, right? We need that guy, right?
Yeah.
Who's the guy for the future, right? And shout out to Jay Pook. What's happening? Jay Campbell is the Lions, is the new Lions in human form.
And I think that's the other thing too.
He is probably high on AG's shopping list. Correct.
And I think that's another like really good point. Like when watching the combine, I'm looking at these guys and like I'm forced to look and take into consideration like character traits that, again, like with most teams, you probably don't care nearly as much as the Lions do. Like I can't speak to how much other teams care, but like I know it matters for the Lions. I know that toughness and like a commitment to football. I mean, Dan Campbell said in his press conference they had met with like 30 people, and he checked off like four people that he was like, oh, they have it.
There was 4 of them that, yes, there's 4 they have their eye on, which is nice. You know, I mean, those 4.
Which is great, yeah, but it's like,
they got,
like
but that's it, though. Just 4 guys.
Yeah, 4 out of 30. Like, and I mean, obviously they still had more people to meet, but like that's a small sample size, and it's like it lets you know that, like, again, those types of things matter. And I think you can also just look at the drafts that they've put together these past few years. Like, it matters, right? Your character, your love for football matters. So,
well, especially on especially on the Lions team, right? This is that's how they're questionable, right? That's their differentiator. That's how we're going to win, is because of that, in those small things, right? In what we've talked about. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see who we pick.
Yeah. Another linebacker that I had my eye on, again, just because I really wanted, this one makes no sense, guys. So like, feel free to disagree with me. I'm not saying that it's the smart pick. This is probably like one of the few times at all in this draft where I'm making a pick strictly off of like, I want the story. I want the story more than I care about the player and the talent. I was really impressed with Noah Sewell. And I would love for the Lions to draft Noah Sewell, because
I bet they do.
If we're talking about somebody we're talking about where character matters, if you know how his brother is built, if you know how Panay is built, if you know how much he cares about family and he cares about football and they care about excellence, I feel like it's almost built in with Noah, that like you're sure that he probably already checks off the character boxes.
I agree with you 100%. I think for those that saw the Inside the Den episode, you know, when they were talking to Panay's dad, and them watching Panay at the All-Star game, right?
Yep. The Pro Bowl.
Yeah, the Pro Bowl. Sorry. So that was cool to see, and he was tearing up, and this whole thing, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna get his brother. I just think they might.
I just think like,
when do you think he'll go? When do you think he'll go? Like, that's actually my question too.
So I would not be surprised if Noah goes as early as, I think I could see Noah Sewell going as early as late second. If not late second, it's somewhere in the 3rd round. Again, like this linebacker class was a little more impressive than I thought it was, but like it's not super deep. Like there is like a part where it kind of falls off, where you're just like, okay, well, you know, you're kind of getting projects or you're getting tweeners. But I like Noah. I think he could play middle. I think he could also play just as a blitzer. And I look back at like what the Lions thought they were going to be able to get out of Jared Davis, or what they were like planning to with Jared Davis, which was like, oh, we'll blitz him up the A gap, or we'll put him in on blitz packages and things of that nature, and we'll maximize his athleticism. Noah A tested more athletically than, again, people thought he would, because again, he's a bigger linebacker. He's, again, around 6'2", 6'3", but he's also like on the heavier side, right? He's around 240, 250. Again, you could potentially get his nutrition under control. Maybe if you want him to drop 10, 15 pounds, you could probably do that. But again, if you exclusively just use him for blitzing and maybe throw him in on special teams, you probably got you a good contributor. Now, again, that's not worth a 2nd round pick, obviously, and it's probably not worth a 3rd round pick. But I personally think higher of him. I think he could play middle linebacker.
Okay.
And I think, which would honestly kick Rodrigo out to be able to play weak side, which will allow him to play more sideline to sideline, and then Noah to just kind of, again, blitz up the middle, and you'll probably need to work on his coverage skills a bit.
Well, that's what we need for Rodrigo. That's what he has to focus on. So, in my opinion, but what else? Can we dive into running backs now, or?
Oh man, Running backs will be the bane of my existence for this draft because I believe the Lions need one, right?
Right. And we have hold on, we have breaking information I'm not going to release, but we have insider information we will release probably next week. But teaser, please tune in next week.
But the Lions, regardless of what goes on with their running back situation right now, obviously Jamal is a UFA. More than likely will get re-signed. So yes. I'm not drastically concerned. I was getting a little nervous this weekend because I'm just like, what's taking so long? But Brad Holmes has already come out and said hey, Jamal wants to be back. There's mutual interest on both sides.
And I can support that. That is part of the tease. We can confirm that. That is confirmed. Yeah. The teaser, which is ridiculous, we'll talk about next week.
So it's like, okay, so you bring Jamal back, and there's been a lot of questions, and there's going to continue to be a lot of questions about DeAndre, not on about his talent, but again, just on his ability to stay healthy. And Dan talked about that in his press conference as well, is that they're going to have to go back to the drawing board because they tried some stuff this past year, limiting his touches in camp, giving him more rest days, and he still wasn't quite able to stay healthy. So new running backs coach, new person over the physical therapy and the health of the team and stuff like that. So hopefully they could put together a better game plan for DeAndre. But even if they don't, they have to prepare in the sense of getting somebody to either be that third running back, or again, if they decide to move on from DeAndre Swift, somebody that can replace DeAndre, or if they are unable to re-sign Jamal.
It is our offense though, right? Jared Goff, most successful with a good running game. So yes, I think that's something that we're going to address. I don't know what we're going to get it or do that.
And that's where it gets.
But you said
dicey.
we talked earlier.
Yeah.
Who had a good combine in the running backs?
Bijan Robinson had a great combine, and I hate to say it. Not that I
Why do you hate to say it though? Why do you hate to say it?
Because there's having a good combine where it's okay, I can see why people are kind of putting him in the first round, but I agree with a lot of people, or I've come around to the thought process that listen, man, the NFL doesn't value running backs,
right?
So don't take them in the first round because the value just isn't. It's just going to depreciate too fast for it. But Bijan is again another person on that list with CJ, with Christian Gonzalez, that just made everything look easy. Everything. And it's if this was the 90s, if this was the early 2000s, Bijan would be a top 5 pick. Easy. It wouldn't be a question.
So my question to you is, does he go in the top 20?
Oh, yeah, because somebody's going to do it. Somebody's going to pull the trigger.
The Lions are going to do it. I bet the Lions do it.
And that's the other part that's making me nervous, right?
No deuce, though.
No deuce. But, the thing that makes me nervous is, Bijan coming out and being yeah, my favorite running back was Barry Sanders, and, all this Barry Sanders love, and,
Sorry, Jay Pook just said Bijan is also the best wide receiver in the draft. That's funny.
I mean... I would give it to, if we're talking about which running back is the best receiver, I would probably give it to Gibbs. Gibbs looked awesome. So out of Alabama. So again, if we're talking about running backs, that's where it kind of gets really tricky because I think there will, if a running back is drafted in the first round, it'll be Bijan Robinson. I don't think another running back gets drafted in the first round. But the next running back that I would want for the Lions is Gibbs out of Alabama, and I don't think he's going to make it to the Lions' 48th pick. I think he'll go early, second round. Somebody's going to, because he's lightning quick, dude. I mean, again, makes things look easy, not nearly as easy as Bijan, but he makes it look easy. Great catching the ball.
So we won't be able to get him with our first pick in the second round?
I don't think so. Not without trading up to get him. I don't think.
Well, I mean, Holmes he did that last year, right? I mean, we got J-Mo.
Oh, hold on. What? I'm glad you brought that up because that's the part that makes me nervous about Bijan.
Oh,
J-Mo was we all sat here last year, right? And we were hey, the Lions need to address the wide receiver room. They need to draft a wide receiver.
Correct.
We were all fine with them doing it at 32. We were all fine. You can get Christian Watson at 32. That's cool. Nobody was complaining about Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, definitely not JMO. Like nobody was calling for that. And Brad Holmes.
So that's what scares you almost.
Oh yeah, that he's gonna once again whip out his giant sack and be like Bijan at 18. And we're all gonna sit here and be like, I mean, the positional value isn't great, but like that offense would be exciting.
What if, I guess my thing is like, I wouldn't take him at 18. Could you trade up in the second round to get him, right? Or get
Bijan?
a third, yeah. Or we're talking Bijan? You're talking Bijan.
Yeah, I was talking about Bijan. I think Brad Holmes will trade up for Bijan, or I think Brad Holmes will draft Bijan if he like really
you do.
I think
See, you do.
I think he would.
You do right
would.
now. Look at I think you're like, yeah, he's gonna do it.
Like it just, it feels like this level of deja vu where it was like, yeah, we need a running back, but we don't need one like super early, and then Brad Holmes being like, nah, I want the best one. It's like,
well, yeah. You got to give him credit. I mean, he did. I mean, let's see what JMO does this year. But, I mean, it was a risk, and we'll see.
It would be one of those picks, I swear to you. It would be one of those picks where, like, it'd be like this groan of, like, he took a running back at 18. But then it'd be like, dude, this offense is going to be electric. Like, oh, well, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but, like, defense, they win championships. Wait, no, offenses do.
I mean, these days, yeah.
Right. It's different, right? Oh, my gosh. Okay, all right. What was your surprise of the Combine? Biggest surprise?
Biggest surprise? For me, it was Will Levis, honestly.
Really?
Because like, I've been down on Will Levis. I keep calling him Daniel Jones.
All I saw was the Twitter post. Was he the one where it's like, I'm here so I can show off my cannon of an arm?
Dude, I wasn't expecting that level of I was like, well, that sounds like a Dan Campbell guy. Like instantly. And so, but yeah, I've been knocking the guy. I think I've been saying that he's Daniel Jones 2.0, and he's just going to go he has like pretty good like physical traits, but then he's just going to get into like a team and just like not be able to put it all together. But from everything that I was able to see and everything that people were saying, like Will Levis put together a good performance. Strong arm, was able to make those deep shots. Like again, he's going toe to toe with CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson, who are just laying 60-yard bombs out there. And Will Levis is like, yeah, I can do that too. And so it's like, all right, well, yeah, I guess he's legitimately in the mix.
Interesting. Okay, so that was your surprise. Okay.
That was one. I think the other one was I hope I'm getting Nolan Smith, the defensive end out of Georgia.
Okay.
Dude put up some ridiculous numbers. He didn't play this past year because he had a torn pec. Went out there and lit up the combine athletically. Like, if we're talking about a guy that probably went from being like a second round pick to probably a first round pick, it's him.
Okay. Interesting. Did you see any of the kickers?
No. I purposely like.
Do we need a kicker though? I mean, do we need a kicker? We don't talk about this a lot.
Yeah, but I think like
anybody out there see the kickers? Throw in the chat.
Everybody's gonna say Jake Moody, right? Local kid, so everybody's gonna say Jake Moody. But
sure.
Would any of us really be excited if they drafted a kicker? I think we would all like collectively groan. Like go find me another diamond in a rough. Go find me another James Houston.
Moody in the second. Let's go. Okay, J Pook.
Like
we love you.
But that's hysterical. How I feel. Like, go find me another James Houston before you draft a kicker.
Same. I'm with you on that. Like,
going back to your other question, another person that surprised me, which again, another quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson out of UCLA, DTR.
This sounds like the Key and Peele draft, like all the names.
But if we're talking about, so again,
Dorian, what is it? Dorian Thompson-Robinson?
Robinson, yeah. Okay. His last name's hyphenated.
DTR.
Yeah, great nickname. But if, again, for the people that are in the camp of like, hey, take a quarterback late, that's the one that I have my eyes on. He put up, again, really good numbers athletically. More than likely going to be like a late 6th, 7th round draft pick, because he has some issues with accuracy. He has some issues of just being able to be consistent with his throws. But if the Lions are looking for a quarterback to develop that has, again, a slightly, not even slightly, an expanded tool set from what Jared Goff provides them as far as athletically and being able to be mobile, this seems like a guy that would be worth investing some time into. If you don't want to take, an Anthony Richardson, if you don't want to take a CJ Stroud, if you want to take the trade down opportunity that may present itself, but you still want to get a guy that's worth developing, that's a guy that I kind of caught my eye. He first caught my eye when he popped up on the list of players that the Lions met with. And so I immediately just pulled up his numbers and just looked. I'm like, dude, I think 5-year starter at UCLA. Last 2 years that he was there, put up some really good numbers, both running and passing. And so, yeah, he could be worth investing some time into, and seeing what you have in that. I mean, my biggest thing with the Lions taking a quarterback late is if you're going to take a quarterback late, don't make it a wasted pick. Don't remember when the Lions drafted Jake Rudock and they had Stafford, and it was just Jake Rudock isn't going to do anything, nothing. He's not going to be a competent backup, and he wasn't going to ever develop into a great starter.
He did not do anything. Yes.
Right. So when people push back on the idea of drafting a quarterback high, it's just because I feel like when you start drafting quarterbacks late, it's really, really a shot in the dark on what the hell you're hitting.
Well, I mean,
and normally you're hitting nothing.
You can hit on them.
Sure. I mean, but I think it's a diamond in the rough. Again, I think people, because of recently, right, because of the Brock Purdy's, because of the Tyler Heineke's, we love to be well, no, see, you can do that. And it's yeah, but think about all the other quarterbacks that were drafted in that range that didn't hit.
Totally. So, again, Jay Pook, shout out. Chase Brown.
Chase Brown was another, yes, very good running back. Again, smooth, good size. When I was looking at the running backs, I was really trying to look at the guys that were 6 feet or taller because
who's the biggest running back? Who was the biggest? The biggest.
I don't know if he's the biggest, but he looked the biggest and he looked the most imposing. Was Zach Charbonnet, who used to be the running back at Michigan, and then he went to UCLA.
Oh.
I may have said his name wrong, but
it's okay. That's fine.
Dude is a tank. He's about 6 feet tall, but he's jacked.
The next Derrick Henry. Also, Derrick Henry's on the trading block. Did you hear this?
Yeah, I did. Derrick, it's about to be a really bad fall for Derrick. I feel bad because he deserves better.
The Lions.
He's not the same.
But the Lions wouldn't entertain that, would we?
Not unless you're not bringing Jamal back.
No, even with Jamal, I'm just
because Derrick Henry does everything that Jamal in theory, Derrick Henry does everything Jamal does, but better.
And he's twice the size.
We
love you, Jamal, but Derrick Henry is larger.
Hey, listen, I don't think Jamal would take any offense that
Derrick
Henry is
But I had to throw it out there as a Jamal fan myself. I just had to say it to myself. That's all.
But yeah, but Brown Chase Brown out of Illinois looked very impressive. Evan Hull out of Northwestern, dude, every drill they ran, he took the ball to the end zone.
Seriously?
They're only supposed to run 15 yards or whatever.
He ran all the way.
Yeah, just throttle down and come back. He ran the 40. He ran all the way to the end zone. They were like, oh man, he's just. And then they started doing positional drills.
Wait,
every carry to the end zone.
Who is this?
Evan Hull, running back out of Northwestern.
See, that is who I think the Lions would be questionable. Yeah, that to me is yep, I'm taking it to the house every time, and the Lions would be yep, and we're gonna that to me is just funny. Not funny in haha, but that is something unique. That is what I think the culture of our team now is. They're all special, and I mean that in a positive way of they bring something to all their positions that others don't. It's just a little bit of flair. It's a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and that's what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are creating, and they support that individuality, right? The questionable, right? That we talk about the questionable assets that like they support that, and that's why, right? Our team can lose 6 games and come back and crush the rest of the season. I mean, not a lot of. I mean, what other teams have done that in the past?
I mean, no, that's a really good point, and
I'm just thinking out loud. I'm sorry, and I'm tired.
No, you're good. I think that's the thing that, again, what makes it hard, like projecting players and what the Lions are looking for is kind of tough because there is so much emphasis that's put on character, and there's so much emphasis that's put on, loving football. Like Dan Campbell says, you need to love ball. You need to, be willing to, be there for your teammates and things of that nature. I love that Dan did say like, hey, we're not necessarily looking for choir boys, but they do want responsible players.
I wonder, and I'm really bummed I wasn't there this year because it felt like Dan Campbell was like the popular kid at high school walking through.
Oh no, then you didn't see how people were like fawning over Mike McDonald. Like, what the hell is the Dolphins coach?
Oh, that dude. I know who you're talking about. People were loving him.
Like, I don't know. Like he's like, remember all the attention that Cliff Kingsbury got when he like first got to Arizona, where it's like, oh, he got some swagger to him, and that's what he's got, and it's kind of like it's already annoying me.
Well, because he is annoying. I mean, look at his face. Let's be honest. But
I don't know, it's just like.
But Dan Campbell's a football guy. I mean, McDonald. I mean, I guess. Oh, okay. So when I say this, I don't know if it's gonna piss anybody off, but like Dan Campbell is a football player, right? And he's a coach, and that's like. But McDonald, I think it is Mike McDonald. It just feels like he's a numbers guy, like a Matt Patricia. Like I'm gonna. He's a player's coach, and we saw the Twitter stuff where he's like, "Oh, I fucked up," right, to the players, right, when he said that.
Yeah.
I would rather, as an athlete, I guess what I'm trying to say is, as an athlete, I'd be a fan of Dan Campbell and not McDonald's, because it's like if you can't do it, why should I listen to you? Right.
Sometimes
in some
certain
regards,
circles,
yes,
in certain circles,
but if I'm a top prospect athlete, I would only listen to somebody that could do it. Does that make sense? Like we've talked about this as a designer,
and I think that's where the divide is in like today's current player is that like a coach like that appeals because he's young and he's in tune. Right. So he's able to speak a lingo that probably resonates with a lot of players, which, again, kind of speaks to Miami's success. So, like, I'm not knocking him as a coach. I'm just saying, in response to, like popular coaches like the Lions were, again, probably for the first time in a long time, they were talked about very highly as far as like during coverage of the combine, which, again, like, in a position when you're drafting as high as 6, right? Normally, if you're in a position as high as 6, people are absolutely saying you absolutely should be taking a quarterback. With the Lions, there is like some hesitancy. There is some like, well, should they? Because they could get into the playoffs with Jared Goff, and they could make some like people are already saying they could make some noise.
We need a quarterback. Stop it. We need a quarterback. Stop. I don't care. At some point, I mean, when else are we gonna have the chance to? You only get so many bites at the apple.
When? Do you know? I'll tell you when. I'll tell you when they'll have another chance. When Jared Goff gets hurt and then they have another 3-win season. Because that's what's going to happen if they don't like. I'm not. But that's what I'm saying. If they don't draft a quarterback, I'm saying that's what happens when you don't have like a quality backup to keep the ship afloat.
Correct. And Meko, that's why. I mean, I do think a couple people in the chat were saying like, the Lions are just playing games in regards to quarterbacks. I don't think that's true. I think they're looking very seriously at all of the quarterbacks because Goff is, he's fine for now. But Dan Campbell, you have to think about it this way too. Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, they want their jobs extended past 6 years, right? What we're 3 in now? You're 3? You're 4? So, like, that's the thing. So they need a quarterback in order to extend their contracts. Let's be real.
I mean, it does help. Also, shout out Mike. What's up? Sorry, just jump in the chat. Appreciate you swinging by. No, I said at the beginning of the draft season, I would not say that the Lions need to take a quarterback. I will not say they need to. I would, considering the quality of quarterbacks that I think are there. I think the situation that you have afforded yourself as a team to be able to have a quality starter in place and not feel compelled and rushed, like Dan Campbell said, having Jared Goff puts them in a situation where there's not pressure to have to take one, but it could be a luxury where you're just like, yo, whether it's Anthony Richardson, where you're like, he has all the physical tools. We can get a year of like cleaning up some footwork stuff, getting him a little bit more accustomed to reading and understanding our offense. We probably have the best quarterback in the NFC a year or two from now. I don't see how you pass that up. And when we look at somebody like CJ Stroud, I think CJ Stroud is, like, again, of this crop of quarterbacks, probably the best one. And if he still happened to fall to you, I think you'd be a little silly to let somebody else have him, especially when, like, the next couple of picks behind you, Atlanta could take him, because we've seen teams do that. Just because you drafted a quarterback one year doesn't mean you won't draft another one. Right. Carolina could jump up, and
Arizona did that with what's his face?
Yeah, with Kyler and Josh Rosen.
Right.
Carolina could get one like
Josh Rosen. What is Josh Rosen doing these days? Anybody know?
Bouncing around practice squads, I think. But, like, I just, like, there are teams in the NFC that are behind them that could use a quarterback. And while they're not directly in your division, like, again, we're already talking about, like, how the Eagles have Jalen Hurts and they probably have the best quarterback in the NFC right now.
Yeah.
Derek Carr just came to town. Geno Smith just re-upped. Matthew Stafford
Derek Carr
might be back.
That
question mark?
Questionable?
Right. Like, who knows? And, like, you could potentially have the next great thing.
So,
but again, it's
not
a need.
Keep going.
It's just what I would do. It's what I would do at 6, because you can still get a quality player on your defense, because this is this weird thing, right? We all believe that this team can't be fixed with one player, but yet we somehow feel like one player can break this team. And I don't necessarily agree.
What do you mean by that? Hold on. Please elaborate. What do you mean by that?
So there are some people that I've seen, like the argument against drafting a quarterback, right? Is that you're in a win now window. Drafting a quarterback would basically put you in position to miss that window, because he's not going to contribute year 1 and possibly not even year 2. And I have a hard time, like, accepting that thought process when this is the NFL. There are 7 rounds to acquire talent, and the bulk of rosters in the NFL are made up of mid-round players. Like, this is not an opinion. Like, that's a fact, that most NFL rosters are made up of players drafted in the middle rounds. So I have a hard time, like, feeling like, okay, just because you take Anthony Richardson and he doesn't contribute right away doesn't mean that it wouldn't be good for your team in the long run, right? Lions went on a run, and even though Njamo contributed how much to that? 1 touchdown? Like,
not much, right? Nothing.
So I don't know. That's my thought process, and the fact of just looking at it and saying, like, if that's the best player available, and you may need a quarterback down the road. Hell, Dan Campbell said it. Jared's not going to be here for 10 years.
He did. That's why we're having this conversation, though. For those that haven't,
So it's like, why? I've always thought it's a great situation to be in for the Lions, that, like, they have the opportunity to maybe have get a top quarterback, and you didn't have to be terrible to get it. Most teams that get top quarterbacks, they had to suck.
Oh, man, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
And yes, Hendon Hooker is, like, I think, like, 2 or 3 years younger than Jared Goff. Like, they are close to age. I don't hate the prospect, but, like, I do have a problem drafting a 25-year-old quarterback in the second round.
No. I have a huge problem with that. It doesn't make any sense to me. What?
Like, I feel like quarterbacks and running backs are 2 positions that you do not draft once they've cracked, like, Like you want to get as much tread out of those tires as you possibly can.
I think that's tough to compare a running back with a quarterback. I mean, look at Tom,
Well,
but like what I'm saying,
but yeah, but I'm just saying though,
I'm
like
with you. I would get the young one and mold them to what you need for the team. And that's the biggest thing too, right? I mean, look at Josh Allen. He's really good, but he's still like having trouble. I mean, I don't know, man. 25-year-old QB with torn ACL. Yes,
yeah,
Poke.
I don't like it. I
don't
don't
like
that.
it either.
I don't. And again,
Josh Rosen is very busy erecting his legend in his own mind. You know what, Poke? Shout out to you. We appreciate you today.
Something. He's erecting something and going to town on it. I know that's probably as much as he's doing these days. That's the only hand-eye coordination he's working on these days.
Oh my God, Meko, you gotta be kidding me. All right, so real quick though, we got we're wrapping up here, but I would everybody in the chat, thank you again for tuning in. Please like, follow, subscribe. Who stood out to you on the combine, right? Because I again, for those that are just showing up, I wasn't able to check it out. I was at a tournament, and so Miko's been getting me up to speed. Who stood out to you? Is there anybody that you saw?
And while you guys throw that in the chat, Scott, I did want to ask you this. So I know, like you said, you didn't get to watch the combine, so this is not a combine question, but it's just it's a draft question. Period. Oh. If the Lions had to double dip at a position in this year's draft, what is the position you personally would like to see the Lions double dip in?
I saw that question and I didn't want to touch it. So that I didn't bring it up to you because I didn't want to answer it. But good on you putting me on the spot. Okay, so if we had a double dip,
you got to get you got to get the same position twice.
Okay, not in order, correct?
Not in order, just in the course of the draft.
Cornerback, easy. I mean, I think so. I mean, you would yes, cornerback, but I do want a linebacker.
That was gonna be my pick. My pick was gonna be linebacker because I just think
cornerback's the easy answer, but my heart is linebacker because we need, I guess, in my opinion, is let's get two and see which one pans out the best, right? Like because
that's essentially that's essentially my thought process as well. Is that I'm confident that Malcolm will continue to progress, but I'm not saying that Derek Barnes won't. But I want to have a contingency in plan where if Derek Barnes continues to develop slowly, maybe you can get somebody that's a little more Johnny on the spot, and at least you would still actually have a really good depth linebacker in Derek Barnes.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like even if Derek Barnes never developed into a starting caliber linebacker, that's fine. If you can get another one, like I said, we talked about Jack Campbell. I have an eye on a late round linebacker in Aubrey Miller Jr. out of Jackson State, who played alongside James Houston. Again, development.
Oh, you're going back to that well.
Oh,
that Houston
I'm
well.
Absolutely going
that
back
Houston
to the
well.
Jackson State. I'm absolutely going back to that well, especially when someone like James Houston speaks highly of him, where he's like, "Hey, you guys thought I was great." Like,
do you remember we called this? Like, Gian loved Houston. Remember last year?
I do.
Gian loved Houston. And then we watched the draft party, and he was wearing that brown suit, and I was like, that dude is just huge.
I think Gian actually called Malcolm and James Houston. I think he was a big fan of both.
Yes, he was. No, Gian, this is why. Shout out to Gian. We love you. We miss you. And he'll be back on soon. But no, both of those guys, but Houston was his big, like he loved Houston. Because I remember watching the draft, and then I'm like, holy shit, he's huge. Like with his mom, like in the suit with a brown suit, like kind of like this color. But his chest was so massive. I'm like, he could be good. He just looks massive.
Yeah.
And here we are.
But I agree with your corner. Like, I mean, I've already said that like a couple weeks ago. Corner is another position I would draft.
We talked about it last week. You know,
I would draft that position back to back if I could. Like, if I really could, I would draft it back to back.
Here we go.
Like not
Here
like
we go
6
again.
and 18. Well, maybe 6 and 18 if the
No,
right ones are there.
no, please no.
Dude, this is the problem. I really like
No.
Christian Gonzalez, but
Yes.
I can't deny that Devin Witherspoon is probably like the better culture fit. I really like Christian
Okay.
Gonzalez.
All right. While we're here, why? Let's break it down between the two right now.
Why do I like Christian Gonzalez?
Yes.
I like technically sound corners, and he looks to be technically sound.
Okay, and Witherspoon's
like,
not. Is he more emotional, more one of those?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
That's a lion, but that's a lion though.
Well, it is. That's why I said like he fits a lion's mold. Like he's gonna lay it all on the field. He's gonna tackle. He's
It's a Kirby Joseph.
Yes, he's gonna do everything he's asked to do. Not saying that Christian Gonzalez isn't, but like he's going to do it with a higher grade of intensity than probably Christian Gonzalez.
When is Christian Gonzalez gonna go? Like ballpark again. This is not. I'm like
9 to 15, probably.
Ooh, so we can't get him at 18.
Not unless.
Can we get Witherspoon at 18
out there that gets released?
Oh my gosh, we should make one up. Can we get Witherspoon at 18?
No, I don't. I think the corners, like the top corners, are gonna go within that range. Maybe somebody like Joey Porter, like between 10 and 15. 10 and 16.
I hate our draft position. Like I said when we started today, we're like one spot out of where we need to be. Like 1 or 2, like 4. Perfect. The Rams.
Yeah.
Idiots. Dicks.
But no, like Casey makes a good point. If the Lions can swing a trade down from 6, then they can easily pick up one of the top cornerbacks without having. I mean, again, you could take one at 6, but if you can get a trade down,
bail out, give me another pick. Yeah, right.
Then like you're still probably in prime position to get one of the top 3 corners. And then
we should trade up to 1.
Please don't.
No, we don't.
As much as I love Jalen Carter,
why?
He might fall to you.
That's clearly.
Oh
my gosh, this was fun.
But yeah, there's some good corners in this class that I think like the Lions will be able to afford to double dip, and I wouldn't mind a double dip at linebacker if they can swing it.
Okay, all right.
Give me Jack Campbell and Noah Sewell. I will be thrilled.
Wait, what?
Give me Jack Campbell and Noah Sewell as like the new linebackers, and I would be like so excited.
Well, so in that thought process, right, Meko, like, and why that would make sense, dude. You're building; they'll be there forever. Do you know what I mean? Like, you just okay. Like, here you go.
Will be there forever.
Boom, boom.
Yeah.
Like, here you go. You guys, okay, you're best friends, and you're gonna, like, that makes sense. Like theoretically, like that makes okay. You two are gonna play together for the next 10 years. You're not going anywhere, right? You know.
Yeah. Get familiar with one another.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what you used to do in soccer. So strikers, you had to be best friends with the other one. But it didn't always work. Bijan Robinson. Yeah. Back to Bijan.
Listen, guys, I hope it doesn't happen, but I am emotionally preparing myself
for the trade up for Bijan from 18.
Yeah, like it goes like the
He's
Lions
gonna do
it.
He's gonna do it, and you want to know why I agree with you? Is because in watching like Behind the Den or whatever is the Lions and stuff
inside
the den, he kind of has a swagger about him now, and he's like, yeah, I can move up. Yeah, Sheila loves me.
Well,
it's like one of those things. Like it's one of those things in which he can get away with it. Yeah, I'm gonna scoot up a little bit. I feel like he just wants to cut in line.
I just think he wants like a dominant offense. Like I think they want to make life so easy for Jared, especially if they don't take a quarterback early. Like if they don't take an Anthony Richardson,
that's a good point.
And then it's like,
Meko, that's a really good point.
We're gonna give you guys Bijan, and we're gonna make Jared's life so easy that we're going to will him into winning us a Super Bowl.
And they're big fans of golf. They are. Now, Dan, I feel like what's funny is Holmes is like more settled in to golf than like Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell's like I need a dude. You know, I want a dude. And Holmes is like, no, this is perfect. It's perfect. This role player is perfect. Don't touch it.
I don't know. I think they're on the same page in that they're both like Jared can like they're going to continue to allow Jared to do his job until he proves he can't.
Well, right.
That's literally the motto.
Well, but that's why Bijan, I mean, that's the running back. I mean, we'll see. I think we take one. I hope we do. I hope we get one of the. I do think we need a running back.
I would have
based on our intel. We need a running back.
Mixed emotions. I would be
What's
literally like they were saying. Mike said Gonzalez at 6 and Bijan at 18. I would be a ball of emotions because I'd be like, yes, we got Christian Gonzalez. No, we drafted Bijan at 18.
Why? Wait. Okay, but why? Who would you rather? Okay, so
if Kalijah Cansey's at 18 and they take Bijan, I'm gonna be pissed.
Oh, that's okay. That's fair. I'll give you that.
Sorry. I gotta dial that back. I'll be pissed for like all of 2 seconds because again, I'm immediately
Bijan though. That's a future running back,
and he won't even be here in like 5 years.
Oh my gosh,
he'll be gone after 4.
That's fair. I mean, don't pay running backs. You have to draft them. Like I am with that. Like don't pay them. You draft running backs. I mean, they get in. I mean, it's just.
Or you franchise tag them like the Raiders and Giants are about to do in Dallas.
And Tennessee? Or can they not franchise?
No, they're trying to trade Derrick Henry. They're not trying to franchise. Like, but.
Meko, what would you do if drafted all O?
If they drafted all offense?
Yeah.
They better put up 60 every week. Every week. I mean, like, hold on, but let's like in reality though, like it would look bad.
I just love that sound.
We'd all be looking at the defense like so they don't matter, but like
right, we don't care.
New quarterback, offensive lineman, running back. You do need wide receiver depth. Like people aren't talking about it, but like you could kind of Quintez Cephas hasn't been able to stay healthy.
Well,
Trinity Benson hasn't been able to stay healthy. You might lose DJ Chark.
I did some research today. Michigan State. Reed, is he the
Jaden Reed is a dude.
He's a bad man.
He's got Dan Campbell written all. Dude had an eye infection. Was like, nah, I'm still about to go out here and do everything.
Yep.
Grit check.
Yeah, Michigan guy, Michigan State, Spartan.
The only problem with Jaden Reed is that like you have Khalif Raymond and Jaden. I would say that Jaden does everything that Khalif does, but better. Personally,
I mean, right?
I'm biased though. I'm a Spartan fan, so like I'm a little biased.
Shout out. Oh man, this was fun.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for that. I really, because I haven't seen anything. I feel like I know everything I need to know right now.
I'm glad you feel like that because I feel like I still know nothing. There's so much going on.
Well, so if I don't, correct, but like because you're in it, and because I've been gone, I'm like, oh, that's a good summary. That's fine. Like but again, you know me, like I'm at the draft, so like all of this doesn't matter until April 27th. Like that day, everything changes that day. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the crazy part.
That's the thing that's crazy. Like combine's over, we still have pro days, and everything is just going to
free agency.
Free agency is going to change things. Like
when does that start again? Next week.
Can't
wait.
I need to confirm, but we should have a guest the week after free agency. So
okay,
I got to confirm with that person, but we should. If everything's good, they'll be joining us the week after free agency to kind of help us recap.
That would be
moves that the Lions move.
That'd be awesome.
Any moves the Lions make.
Derrick Henry, no.
You stop it.
Jay Pook.
Put that evil on me.
Jay Pook. He's been trolling us all day. In a good way. So yeah, we'll see what happens. It should be interesting. And then Gion's coming back on. He's gonna hopefully be on next week. So we get the hurricane. Yeah, at least for a minute. So
that's all you need from the hurricane. You just need a swift breeze.
No, like he needs to come in with his stat sheet and be like, okay.
I'm sure John's gonna have so many things to say because he hasn't been here the last couple weeks. So I'm gonna give him I'm just gonna mute my mic and let him go.
He goes, all right, guys, I have 10 minutes. I'm coming in, and then he just leaves after 10 minutes. The hurricane.
Yeah,
Okay, anything else? What other news? Lions news? Anything else? I think that's it. You know, we're gonna break some news next week, hopefully. And yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Again, please, thank you everyone for hanging with us tonight. Please like, follow, subscribe, please. And yeah, I want to shout out my family, my parents, my mom's charity, Literacy for Kids. We were just down in Florida. We did the tournament, raising some money for literacy in Detroit. And so that's actually really cool. We might, we do stuff for her, and it's been great. And we will continue to do that. And yeah, Meko.
Yeah, no, shout out to the fam. The girls start their dance competition this week, but I believe it's the following week. So I'm about to be in full dance dad mode. So pray that I have some strength, because it's about to get busy out here.
I'll pray for you.
Appreciate it.
All right. So again, please like, follow, subscribe. Head over to questionabletees.com. Grab some merch and some gear. We have new stuff coming. Very exciting. Yeah, so thank you guys. Thank you everyone for hanging out with us today. Yeah, this is the Questionable Podcast out.